Grab a seat, feeling great. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome along. As Eric mentioned, my name is Jamie McIntyre, so I know some of you would know who I am, many of you don't. So first of all, I just want to acknowledge and commend you for being here this morning. I know on a Sunday morning we could be doing many other things, is that true? But you've been dedicated, you invested your time and energy to be here, and time is probably our most valuable thing. So for the short period of time we actually have together today, I want to share with you as many things as I possibly can that I think will make a significant difference in your life. I know has made a significant difference in my life. I was very fortunate, very grateful to this day that I learnt these things many years ago. And I'm still a student of success. I still continue to learn, read books, study mentors, attend events, etc. because continuing to learn enables you to continue to grow as a person and achieve so many more things in your life. So I've had the privilege over the last 11 years of my speaking career to impact and educate over 250,000 people right now around Australia and New Zealand from 17 different countries around the world. So these strategies work no matter where you live, whether you're in Australia or New Zealand. I just want to acknowledge those people that will be watching this from their living rooms around the world. No matter where you live in the world, many of these strategies apply directly to what you can do in your life. Okay, so to give you a little bit of an idea what we're going to be talking about today. First of all, I want to look at why is it in a rich country, why is it in a rich country like Australia, New Zealand, many Western countries around the world, that most people do not become wealthy? Because if we can discover and understand why in a rich country most people don't become wealthy, then it's going to give us a lot of insight into what it takes to become wealthy. Because many people will think that, well, to become wealthy, we have to be lucky. You often hear that. Or you have to maybe inherit the wealth. It's all right for those that come from rich families or inherit the wealth. Some people, I know in the US, they teach seminars so you can marry into wealth. Okay, if that hasn't worked for you, it works for some people. There's different ways, but does it come down to that? My experience is this, and I'll share with you today the different things that I've learnt. But there's a specific way to become wealthy, and the good news is there's many ways. So we're going to look at today, not only going to discover why is it that most people fail financially in Western societies, why most people aren't rich, because some people would say, well, Jamie, if it's that easy to become rich, then why isn't everyone rich? Who's heard that before? Okay. And first of all, I'll say right up front, I'm not here to suggest that to become wealthy is necessarily easy. However, you want to jot this down. I'm here to suggest this. It may not be easy, but it is simple. One of the things that you will discover as we go through and learn many strategies today is that it's incredibly simple. The challenge most people have, especially being human, is we tend to overcomplicate things. And because we've been taught a certain way that life is based on hard work and struggle, if we see a new concept, a new idea, a particular strategy, and it seems like, oh, that just seems too simple. How can that be true? How can that work? It doesn't compute because my map of the world, what I've been taught is that everything has to be hard and difficult and complex. And if something is simple, it just doesn't make sense. And that's what you'll discover today. Some of these strategies we go through, strategies that helped me go from sleeping on a friend's couch about 15, 16 years ago, $150,000 in debt, about to go bankrupt, okay? I'm struggling financially, a lot of pain in my life, despite putting a tremendous amount of effort in to building a business at a young age. And I was struggling. But things are able to turn that situation around, avoid bankruptcy, get out of massive debt, and become a self-made millionaire in my 20s. Now, I don't say that to impress you, but to impress upon you that I'm not just someone here that's paid as a professor at a university to lecture to you based on theory. I'm someone that's had to start with nothing, build it up, actually been through a lot of financial challenges and create a tremendous amount of wealth in my life. So I'm someone that can speak from experience as well. And today we live in probably one of the most exciting times in the history of the planet, the history of human experience, for the opportunities that exist right now to create wealth on this planet, okay? Not just in Australia, but around the world. We're going to be talking about that today. So we're going to look at, okay, if it's possible then for people in wealthy countries to achieve above average financial success and become wealthy, then how do we go about doing that? So today in this session, the short time we have together, we're going to look at about 3 key areas. There's about 3 key areas that you can create wealth. And I'm going to go through those and some of them specifically. We're going to look at some financial strategies today that you're going to be able to generate cash flow sooner rather than later. Is there anyone in this room here who would be interested if you could learn specific strategies, not just conceptual, but specific strategies that we're saying in the next 90, 120 days, 180 days for others, that you would be in a situation for many of you that you could possibly replace your current income that you earn while you're working from income that would come in without needing to work for that income. Who would be excited about that possibility? Okay? Now, that's a pretty big promise, a pretty big statement. However, through experience, there would at least be 60, 70% of you that will be in that position. Okay? And I'll explain as we go through some of the financial strategies. Some of you, of course, will take longer because you're starting from a lower financial base. But it's not a race. It doesn't matter where you're at. But there's specific strategies that can happen sooner than others. We're also going to look at longer-term strategy, building long-term sustainable wealth. You know, there's many different ways. Some people, some of you in the room here are already, maybe successful in property. Who loves property, by the way? Raise your hand if you love property. And some of you may be focused on that. And I respect that there's already wealthy people in this room, people who are already successful, sophisticated investors. Then so you might just be here to fine-tune or learn a different strategy. For instance, most people that are good at property don't know very little about the share market. Well, it's a skill set I had to learn both. And so I'm going to encourage you in the property market to keep an open mind. We'll learn some share strategies that can generate you cash flow that can help you be a more successful property investor. Does it make sense? We're also going to look at opportunities not just in Australia but overseas, in the US, etc. today. We're going to look at US property market as well. So let's see what opportunities are worldwide. Because it doesn't matter where you live as an investor. So there's some pretty exciting things that are happening out there in the world, but most people miss out on them because one, they're not educated, and two, they're not looking for opportunity. And three, if they do find opportunity, they usually don't know what it looks like, okay? And as a result, most people procrastinate, hesitate through fear and doubt, and even when they get a great opportunity, they often fail to act, okay? And we're going to look at what is the mindset of a millionaire today. In other words, you may have heard that, well, let me ask you this question. Who here believes that people that are self-made millionaires perhaps think differently to people that are financially struggling? Who thinks that would be true? Most of us. So let's dissect that, shall we, and say, well, if that is true, if millionaires think differently to, say, the average person in society, or they think differently to, say, someone that's on the pension or in poverty in our society, then, okay, what is that difference? Because if we can break that down and understand what that difference is, we can then self-coach ourselves. We can look at our own thinking and say, you know what? Do I have the mindset that's required to achieve optimum results financially in my life? Or in any aspect of my life? Or is my current level of thinking part of the problem? Is my current level of thinking holding me back? Does it make sense? Because then we can look at that and just be honest with ourselves. Because that's what it's going to take to shift your life and to shift my life. I had to be honest with myself where I was at. Many people in life try and make out things are, much worse than they really are. Okay, we don't want to do that either. Some people make out their life is much better than what it really is. That's not going to help either. We want to know where we're at in our life, in each aspect. Where we are honestly and be honest with ourselves, and then we can chart an accurate path from where we are to where we want to go. Because many of you in the room, in one aspect of your life, you might be excelling. So let's say you're right into health and you value your body and you're into fitness and you eat well. So that part of your life, you might be an 8 or 9 out of 10. But what about financially? You put no effort into there, you don't really know what you're doing, and you're struggling. Or some of you might be great in relationships. Why are you great in relationships? Because guess what? That's where you focus most of your energy, and that's why you have great, successful relationships. But maybe financially you're struggling, or career-wise you're struggling, or the opposite. You might be doing better financially, but your relationships are struggling. So we're going to look at these principles. We're going to talk a lot about financial success today, but you can apply them to every aspect of your life, of how to outperform, how to achieve more than the average person. And what you will find, there's specific things that you can do that not necessarily easy, but is what? Is simple, and it's possible. So we're going to look at that. We're going to also look at, as I said, some property strategies today, some specific cash flow strategies. I'm going to talk to you about renting shares, a terminology for a strategy I created probably a little over a decade ago that's now helped, thousands upon thousands of people in this country and around the world generate a full-time income, part-time. They can replace, or in some cases make large amounts of income. I'll share you some success stories today towards the end of people that have taken these strategies to make a small amount of money to a large amount of money. I've had people, 19-year-old couple sitting in my front row of a seminar many years ago, went out and made in excess of $20 million. I'll talk to you about John, 78-year-old that's making $40,000 to $50,000 a month right now using some of these strategies right now in this country. We talk about people who made all sorts of different things. And some people go, well, money's not the driver for me. I just want to redesign my life and be much more happy and fulfilled. And there's countless stories of that. So I'm honored and blessed in my life today because of the work that I've done over the last 11 years as an educator. I had people email me, come up to me almost every day of my life and say, Jamie, I just want to thank you. I've read your book. I went to one of your seminars. I watched one of your DVDs. You won't believe how much has changed my life. And I love hearing that, and it's the reason I still put my time and energy and millions of dollars of resources of my wealth into making this education available, because I believe that if this was taught, there's what we're talking about today, a modern day education, what I call a 21st century education, which unfortunately is not taught at school, is not taught at university. If this was made widely available around the world, then many more people could live their dream life like I've been able to because I learned this information. And my passion is to make that available. And I've continued to do that over the last 11 years, and we have huge plans of reaching more and more people around the world. So I'm excited for you, if this is new to you, a lot of these strategies, because what is possible for the average person today, if they can educate themselves, if they can get themselves to act, if they give themselves a realistic time frame and create a supporting environment around them, over time, what's possible. You think 10 years from now, where each and every one of you can be financially, 10 years from now, if you're committed, focused over the next decade of your life. Because that's what happens. Most people say, well, let me ask you this question here. Who wished they had bought more real estate in Australia 10 years ago? Okay. That is called hindsight. Does that make sense? Because we all have a sense of certainty. I wish 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Okay. But to be successful, to become a millionaire or to achieve financial success, we have to have what? Foresight. We have to be able to see into the future. Now, does that mean, Jamie, you have access to a crystal ball and that's why you made millions when others didn't? No. But we have developed the ability to preempt the future. To preempt the future based on fundamentals. And we only have to be right more times than we're wrong. And I'll share with you today what I believe is going to happen in the world. It's a global update. I'll give you a bit of a marketary commentary, I think, where things are going, because what holds a lot of people back is fear. Right now in the US, go back 4 or 5 years ago, a lot of my US friends were buying real estate. There was a property boom in the US. People were making a fortune. They were buying houses. Anyone could borrow money, and they were pulling out the line of credits and living off it, and now having a time in their life. Didn't have to work. Most people were real estate developers. Okay? When taxi drivers are real estate developers, it's usually a warning sign. Everyone's into something, and that's what was happening in America. And I had another friend in America. He's worth about $400 million, and he was saying he had built up a portfolio of 1,000 apartments in the US, and he said to me quietly, he said, Jamie, I've decided to start selling my apartments. Yeah. Did he have a crystal ball that the credit crisis was coming, yes or no? Probably not, but he had a gut instinct, an intuition, and his judgment, which made him a multi-millionaire by acquiring a lot of property, was that I'm going to sell down and get out. And I can remember sitting around a table in discussions in the US with some of my other friends, and he was saying, you guys are crazy. You're leveraged to the hilt. You're just buying these properties, you're leveraged to the hilt. You should sell some of them or get out. Okay? They didn't listen to him, and he got out. Now, guess what he's doing in the US? He's going back in and buying hundreds of properties, etc. Where the poor US folk, no offense to those watching from the US, most of them are scared because they bought property at $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 and seen it drop to $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, in some cases $50,000, $60,000. And they're scared because they put their hand on the stove and got burnt. Too scared to get back in now at $50,000, $60,000, $100,000. They've had a negative experience from the past that's stopping them from moving forward. But they were happy in the past to pay top dollar for them. So when they should have been smarter not to pay top dollar and now taking advantage of low dollar, they're too scared now. And this is what I see happen to a lot of people. They've had a negative experience in the past. I got in the stock market, Jamie, I lost some money. Therefore, I'm never going to do that again. Oh, Jamie, I was in a relationship once and I got hurt. Therefore, I will never love another person again. Is that intelligent thinking, yes or no? No, we can't live a life like that. Or some people don't even have a negative experience. They borrow someone else's. Oh, my uncle, he got into property and lost money. And I think, actually, no, it was his next door neighbor of the uncle. Lost money, therefore, I will not move into the future and have a go. So I'm not here to suggest today that you can invest and not lose money. Jot this down. If you're going to be an investor, at times you'll lose money. If you can't handle that, do not start the journey. Do not start the journey. If you can't handle losing, then how do you think you're going to succeed? That would be like saying to Sylvester Stallone in Rocky. He's going, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go for the world championship, but on one condition. I never get hit in the face. The two don't go together, do they? To be successful at a box, you're going to take some hits. And he'll say it's not, how many times you get knocked down, but it's how many times you get back up. And life is like that. But if we're smart, we can learn off other people's experiences. Okay? Experience is the best teacher. You've heard that saying before. In society, we nut down the quotes. What it also went on to say, though, that quote, if you read the rest of it, is that only a fool will learn through experience. Through experience. Meaning, smart people will borrow other people's experiences. Why go through the pain that I went at a young age, almost financially bankrupt, when you can borrow off those experiences and avoid the same mistakes? Why lose money when you can go and model Warren Buffett in investing? Why fail and struggle in business when I could just go and model Richard Branson, multi-billionaire, and learn some things off him about business that I can apply to my own life that's made me tens of millions of dollars? See, it's better to model off other people's. The shortcut to success, you want to know what that is today? The answer is very simple. At school, we're taught not to what? Make mistakes. Not to copy. And also avoid mistakes, yes. We're told at school not to copy. I'm telling you now, in the 21st century, if you want to excel, then you should copy. Really, Jamie? No, we don't call it copy, we call it modeling. Okay? We call it modeling. What we do, the shortcut to success, is to model. Find someone that's already produced the result you want, learn off them. Learn off them. Model what they did. You can take that and you say, well, Jamie, does that mean if I model Warren Buffett, I'll be worth $33 billion one day? Probably not. Okay? But what if you model Warren Buffett's investment strategy, which I teach people in my events? He's break it down, his exact investment strategy. What if you modeled that and achieved 0.011% of Warren Buffett's success? Who would be happy with that? Okay? Make sense? So modeling doesn't mean you're going to be as good. We could bring Leighton Hewitt in here and say, Leighton, teach us how to be a world #1 tennis player at 20 years of age. See, Leighton has done that. But we're not going to become as good as Leighton. Why? Because we're probably not going to be as dedicated and put the hours and effort in as Leighton Hewitt did to get to the top. However, do you think hanging around playing some games of tennis with him, would that improve our game of tennis, yes or no? Yes. He could get dramatic improvement from us because he sees and knows and has an understanding. He can preempt where the ball's going. He can preempt what's going. He has a higher level of understanding, higher level of skill. So he can easily improve our game. But him playing tennis with us, would it improve his game, yes or no? No. He needs to be playing Roger Federer, etc., to go to the next level. My point is this. The other challenge that holds many people back is who you hang around determines who you'll become as a person and your success. Robert Kiyosaki talks about, he said, I could identify how much someone is worth, pretty much just how much they're earning. Tell me the 5 closest friends or 5 closest people they spend most of their time with. Tell me how much those people earn or net worth approximately. Add it all up, divide it by 5, and that's about what you'd be worth or earning. Repeat after me. Something to think about. Are you saying, Jamie, if I want to be rich and successful, I should hang around rich and successful people? Absolutely. Should I dump all my poor friends? Absolutely. No, I'm just kidding. I am not saying dump all your poor. It's not about who's, it's about saying this. If you want to be successful, you could consciously choose who you gravitate towards. 15 years ago, sleeping on my friend's couch, some of my friends, when I failed, were excited. So back down to their level. Because when I was successful, it was making them uncomfortable because they knew if they had the guts and the courage to risk failure, they too could have had that. But when I'd failed, it makes them feel more comfortable. So you being successful and going for your dreams, I'll tell you what, will make some people in this country uncomfortable. Do you understand that? Who already noticed some people getting uncomfortable? In this country, you stand above the crowd. The great thing about being in Australia and Australian is this, that we're all pretty much equal. We don't have the classes, the higher class, middle class, lower class. Pretty much everyone's equal. You can be a doctor and live next door to a garbage collector. Everyone's pretty much equal. There's a few toffee areas, is that true? In Sydney you have a few of the Vaucluse, or in Melbourne you have the Toorak, and Brisbane you have, what do you have in Brisbane? Hamilton, okay. We have some, I was at the races last week, Melbourne Cup races, and they try and endear this, toffiness, and I just over that stuff. I said, who do you think we are? We're Australians, okay? Everyone's equal. No one is better than anyone else. That's my belief. But the point was, something important I was leading up to before that. What was I talking about? Tell me. Okay. Clearly, some of you are listening to a different seminar, okay? The point being, okay, the flip side of the fact everyone is equal in our culture, Australians are renowned around the world, and New Zealanders are being very friendly people, and everyone's pretty much down to earth. We're very down to earth people, and that's a great thing about our country, and I respect that. The flip side of that, though, is that if you dare stand above the crowd, then there's people in our society who wants to pull you down. Okay, and we have a term for that. It's true in Australia called tall poppy. It happens here more so than any other culture. You go to America, they'll tend to put entrepreneurs on a pedestal. They'll look up to them. In Australia, we want to destroy them, okay, and pull them down. Because who do you think you are? You're better than someone else. So I highlight that to you because it's not all rosy becoming wealthy. Okay, we live in a world where it creates jealousy and things like that. But you want to be able to, the ultimate goal is to be able to achieve what you want and keep a pretty low profile and go about your life in the way that suits you. Okay, but some people will be watching you. As you going towards your dreams and achieving more, you will inspire them to say, if you can do it, they can do it. And that's what's happened in my life. I have many friends I've coached, and many family, and many people over the years have been able to help them transform their life by getting them, one, to be a role model, and two, providing them, assisting them and helping them improve the quality of their life. Because it's not for the fortunate few. Some people have this belief system, yeah, but Jamie, that's all right, it's just the lucky few that make it. Jot this down. Bullshit. Bullshit. I speak to people every day that have gone out and done amazing things with these strategies every day of my life. Thousands and thousands of people. If we could line them all up in one room and hear story after story after story, eventually go, my God, there's so many people doing this. But if we have limiting beliefs that hold us back, then whatever we believe to be true will be true for us. Does that make sense? So it's not about anyone else other than you. And what can you do? And I'm telling you now, the reason most people don't live their dreams is their standards are too low. The reason I live my dreams and transformed my life over the last 15 years is because I've been more dedicated, more committed, more focused than most other people in this country. I'm being honest with you. It's not because Jamie got lucky and got into real estate back in his 20s. If I got lucky and got into real estate in my 20s, then 19 other million people in the 90s that lived in Australia could have been just as lucky. So was it luck was the determining thing? No. Have I been lucky in business? Well, anyone else could have started businesses in the 90s or in the last decade. It's not luck. You hear stories. Luck favors the brave. Great. Sometimes luck helps you. But it's not going to help anyone unless they have the guts and courage to have a go. Unless they're willing to risk failure. The reason I become a millionaire is that I failed. And I was willing to risk that. Does it make sense? The reason most people achieve a fraction of their financial potential, a fraction of their potential in any aspect of their life, is they're afraid of failure. And we need to smash through that. We need to turn fear into power. And that can be done. And that can be done, you're going to say, well, Jamie, but I have valid reasons to be scared of investing because I've lost money in the past. That's understandable. We just have to regroup, refocus, educate ourselves. Education is one of the critical steps because the more you know and understand, the more aware you are, the more likely you are to succeed. But then you have to practice. Everyone starts somewhere. So becoming financially intelligent is a skill set just like each and every one of you have a career. If you're a great accountant, you had to learn that skill set. If you're a builder, you had to learn that skill set. Make sense? If you know how to cut hair, you had to learn that skill set. If you're a doctor, you want to hope they learnt that skill set. You know what I'm saying? The point is, there's a skill set to whatever we do. We're in architecture or we're a stockbroker. There's a skill set. Same with investing. It's a skill set that can be learnt. Make sense? So we've got a lot to get through in the next few hours. So before we get started, everyone just stand up quickly. My challenge to each and every one of you today is this. One, if you want to achieve a lot, you need to keep an open mind. Albert Einstein said this. He said the definition of intelligence. See, most people think to be intelligent, you have to be academically brilliant. And you have to have a lot of PhDs on the wall. However, Albert Einstein didn't agree. Albert Einstein said, you know what? The definition of intelligence is this, is the ability to entertain a new idea. It wasn't how many academic degrees you have. As you study success, you'll find most people that have been financially successful in business and investing generally failed or dropped out of college or failed at school. I'm not saying that's what you should go out and do and aim for, but I'm saying there's a correlation. We're going to look at that in a moment, why that is. There's important reasons why that. But Albert Einstein, a highly intelligent person, said the sign of intelligence is the ability to entertain a new idea. Most people are narrow, closed-minded. That's why they're not going to live their dreams. Need to be open-minded. And we need to entertain new ideas to grow. Some of you today are successful in certain areas, entertain some new ideas and see if you can do it better. Because here's my belief. I don't care how well you're doing or how poor you're doing. I don't believe there's a single person in Australia, single person in the world for that matter, that cannot do better. Who's willing to agree that anyone can do better? Okay? Warren Buffett, he could look and say, my investment strategy, how do I take it to the next level? Richard Branson, how do I take my businesses to the next level? Donald Trump, how can I build even better buildings and have my career even better? Anyone, there's always a next level. Roger Federer, how can I be a better tennis player? How can I go to that next level? There is always a next level if we're willing to entertain new ideas. Okay. Now, Tiger Woods is not always the most ideal example in some aspects. He's had a few personal challenges in recent times. But one thing you'll know about Tiger Woods, when he was number one golfer in the world, he took the risk, despite already being number one and no one could catch him, to completely change his swing and style. Already number one, but he's willing to take a risk to even become better and had to learn a whole new swing, a whole new style, and take the risk that he has to go back to something new or might not be as good until he masters it again. Does it make sense? So even people at the top of the game that are willing to take a risk to continually go to the next level. Make sense? Okay, so entertain a new idea. I challenge you to take lots of notes as well. Okay, each idea, just one idea you can walk out of the room here today and put into action can lead you in a different direction. You mightn't see much different a few months from now, but we go a year from now, your life is starting to head in a different direction. We go a decade from now, and you can look back, your life can be in a completely different direction to where it was a decade ago. All because of making decisions, learning new things, and taking action. It changes, and what we're so blessed with is that we live in a wonderful country, live in a wonderful time in the world where we have so much opportunity. And, we need to take advantage of that, okay? So I challenge you to take lots of notes. I challenge you to physically engage as well and ask questions. You have the answer. Today is not about what I think. Today is about getting you to think. The book Think and Grow Rich, a very powerful book. It doesn't say, work bloody hard and one day hope to wake up rich, does it? The title is Think and Grow Rich for a reason. Think is one of the key things, and one of the reasons we talk about why most people fail is because the school systems teaches them not to think. I want to talk about that in a moment. Okay? So I challenge you, to think is one of the keys to tap into your creativity. So here's what I want you to do very quickly. I want you to meet 3 or 4 other people around you, just say your name, who you are, where you're from, and what's at least one thing you'd like to learn from today. You say, Jamie, I was dragged here by my spouse. I don't even know where I am. Well, you're here now, you might as well learn something. Is that true? Hey, where you're from, what's your name, what do you want to learn from today? Go for it quickly. Meet 3 or 4 other people. Okay, class, grab a seat. Grab a seat, feeling great. Grab a seat, feeling great. You people start talking, we can't stop you. Okay, so before we get started on some of the strategies, who am I? What gives me the right to speak on subjects such as success in general or financial success? I'll be right up front with you. My goal is not to give you financial advice today, even though I am licensed. I'm licensed to give general advice in shares and derivatives, etc. in Australia. However, my goal is not to give you advice because I'm an educator. And educators are different. My goal is to educate you so you can make up your own mind what's best for you, and you can go out and do it yourself. As opposed to if I was a financial planner, my goal would be to sell you an investment. Does that make sense? To ideally sell you a managed fund or an insurance policy, and I would make money as a financial planner, commission ideally for the rest of my life. Okay, I have some issues with that industry, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But as an educator, I'm here to empower you, to share with you, to teach you what is possible, what other people are doing, and give you the tools and the resources so you can go and do it yourself. Now, the challenge in society is a lot of people, like, when it comes to money, they don't know anything about it, and there's reasons for that. So, like, I'd just rather someone else take care of it for me. And that's a dangerous thing to do, because who's going to look after your money the best? You or someone else? I would say you, and that scares some of you and go, I'm hopeless with money, so maybe someone else should do it. But I'm suggesting you today it's possible to learn. I'm not saying you have to become a sophisticated investor, even though I've taken thousands of people from novice to sophisticated investors, probably faster than any other organization in the world. However, you don't have to go to that level. It's good just to know and have a basic awareness. You don't even have to be sophisticated, you can make money. And I'll give you examples of that in this country and other countries by just being able to get yourself to act. Because the power belongs to those who can take action. There are as many accidental millionaires in this country. But accidental because they got themselves to act. They took advantage of opportunity in the past, and over time, time's been very good to them. Okay? So myself, what gives me the right to speak on these topics? As I said, I was $150,000 in debt. I've been on Struggle Street, almost bankrupt from a failed business. I started at 21 years of age, and I've been able then to build a large multi-million-dollar property portfolio. I've had a lot of success in the stock market, making up to $100,000 a month in cash flow from some of the strategies I'm about to teach you in this session. I've also built over the last decade or so over a dozen different companies, 8 of those in different industries that have been $1 million plus companies, some of those standalone $30 million plus companies. I don't share this to impress you, but impress upon you that I'm someone that's had to go out there and apply these things to my life. Does that make sense? So I may not have a PhD in financial planning, but I do have a PhD in results. Does that make sense? In other words, someone's had to go out and do this, so I can teach you from experience. I've also had the privilege to learn off some pretty amazing mentors and people over the last decade or so, and as a result, I've been able to learn off them and articulate those strategies and make that available to you. For instance, I'll share some of the distinctions later about how some of the distinctions I learned off Richard Branson. Who's familiar with Richard Branson? The most renowned and successful entrepreneur on the planet. That's built over $8 billion companies in separate industries. $8 billion. Who'd like just $1 billion company? Okay. So if we brought Richard in here, Richard has been a successful entrepreneur, but Richard, to articulate how he's been successful, it's very difficult. One, he's not a public speaker, not an educator, so he doesn't have that skill set to articulate that. And too many people that are what we call unconscious competent at what they do, don't necessarily consciously know how they did it. They often need someone to dissect and figure out what were the distinctions or strategies they've used that led them to that success. Does it make sense? So even if you do find someone that's a great, sometimes that they're not able to teach because they're simply unable to consciously aware unless they sit down and break down and try and figure out how it worked, and then whether it's replicatable, because not everyone's what they do is replicatable. Okay? Like Donald Trump is very successful in real estate, in specific strategies, but it's not necessarily replicatable for the average person in most cases, even though you can still learn distinction off what he does. Making sense? So being able to articulate and share that's been able to help a lot of people. And the driving force of why I set out to be an educator as one of my careers is because when I learned all these things off my mentors, one mentor in particular, I realized, and I come up with this realization, I could have been taught this stuff from the beginning. If I had been taught this at school, then I would have avoided a lot of the struggle, a lot of the pain, a lot of the heartbreak, and I would have been able to apply this to my life and be a lot successful a lot earlier in my life. Okay, does it make sense? So my passion was like to make this available. It was also a promise that I made to one of my mentors, is that I would pass on the information. So one of the things I ask for each and every one of you today, all I ask in return is that consider this. Any profits you make, the next year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from these strategies, any increase in your pay and income and whatever you do with these strategies, all I ask in return is you give 10% of that profit to me. Raise your hand if you're okay with that. Team, quickly pass out the legal documents. Okay. No, I'm just joking. You don't have to give it to me. Okay. But what I ask is you consider giving at least 10% of the wealth that you make to worthwhile causes, whether it's a charity you believe in or other causes or something you want to see to make a difference in the world. Now, if you somebody say you don't have a charity, there might be some people in this room here today that might volunteer to be your favorite charity. However, the point is to give. You can create. Now, there's two reasons I teach you this. One, I think it's a good philosophy to live your life by. But two, if you tap into a psychology, humans will often do more for others than they will for themselves. There is a desire to need to contribute in our lives. And if we can tap into that, you'll be far more financially successful. Because I don't just want you to be financially comfortable. This is not just about you being financially comfortable. It's about you going well beyond that. My first mentor said, Jamie, if you want to help the poor, guess what?
Don't be one of them.
Exactly. He said, don't be one of them. Because I used to have this issue that to become rich, well, the rich people have the money, and that's why there's poor people. And there's a view of the world, the scarcity model. We were taught school, economics is a study of scarce resources. There's this scarcity mentality of the world, that there's not enough money for everyone, there's not enough food for everyone, and that's why there's the haves and the have-nots. Okay? However, is it true? Is there's people starving on the planet? Is it from a lack of food? Yes or no? No. It's not a lack of food. Often it's because an excess of food in certain areas. Okay? There's not a lack of food. Is because some people don't have enough financial abundance? Is there's a lack of money on the planet? No, we need more money. We always got the US Federal Reserve. They'll print off another 600 billion. They create money out of thin air all the time. Okay? There's the wealth of the world is expanding at a rapid rate. Even when there's a credit crisis, does the wealth disappear, yes or no? It just transfers from generally the uneducated to those who are more educated or know what's going on. Does it make sense? There is an ever-increasing abundance. So one view of the world is the abundance view of the world. It's up to you how you live your life, but how you see the world will often be reflected back to you. If you see that the world is a horrible, mean, evil place, and that's your glasses, that's your view of the world. Can you look out into the world and see references that will support your belief that the world is a horrible, evil, mean place? Yes or no? Yes. Absolutely. If you had different glasses on or a different view of the world and you looked out at the world and said, you know what? The world's an amazing place. There's so many amazing people out there, caring, loving people, people that will help you make a difference. There's amazing, beautiful places to go and see. Would you see references to support that? Yes or no? Yes. Absolutely. So what your world is often determined by not reality. Jot this down. Perception of reality. Your life is determined by the perception of your reality. Okay? So if you want to change your reality, we need to change your perception of life. If you want to become rich and you're not rich yet, you need to change your perception of wealth, the perception of what's possible. And by seeing that, you will see different things. Why is it that I can go out in the world and achieve success in different areas, in business or investing where others can't? Same economy, same opportunity. I see things differently to how I saw things 15 years ago when I didn't have, I guess, the foresight or the awareness. Make sense? Okay? And how did I get that? I got educated. I'm doing what you're doing now, studying and learning as rapidly as you can. Okay? My central message today is education will solve most problems. Why I'm passionate and why I think you should go and contribute to causes. My dream is, I said the other day, if I had an unlimited amount of money, what would I do? I'd pump millions more into education. My belief is through education, most problems in the world are caused by ignorance. True? Ignorance is not bliss. As some people might think. Ignorance is not bliss. Most problems in the world can be solved through education. But it has to be the right education. It has to be a modern day, 21st century education. In other words, an education that matters, education that gets people to understand things and gets people to act. Make sense? So let's first of all look at it before we go. What are the strategies that we're going to require to improve our financial situation? Let's look at it. Why is it in a rich country most people are not wealthy? Okay? Why in a rich country most people are not wealthy? Okay? Now there's a couple of reasons for this. One, were we taught at school financial intelligence, yes or no? No. No, unfortunately, the schools that most of us went to, we were not taught that. I have lobbied in this country to the government for over a decade, lobbied that financial literacy, financial education should be taught in the school. And a few years ago, they did acknowledge that, and they committed $16 million only, to financial literacy in schools. Yet our former Prime Minister, our current Prime Minister, as well, they were happy to waste $16 billion on building shade cloth sheds at schools that generally won't be used or really don't add that much value to education. Only $16 million into financial literacy to teach people, at least when they leave school, that they have a basic understanding around money. Because I don't care what career you go into, does money affect your life, yes or no? Yes. Every aspect. Some people say, well, Jamie, I'm not into money. I'm not really interested in money. I'm not materialistic. Okay, usually when I hear someone say I'm not materialistic, I think in my mind, sounds like one of the most materialistic people there are. Usually people say they're not materialistic. What are they? Let me explain what I mean, okay? They say, I'm not into money, money's not important, blah, 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 okay? People will say one thing and they will do another. Incongruency. See, my goal and the organizing principle, one of the things that we're talking about here today, is that if you develop a healthier relationship with money in your life, if you develop a healthy relationship, work on that relationship, you'll have more abundance in your life and you'll have a better life as a result. Also, it's not just about the money. If you develop a better relationship with yourself and continue to work on yourself and improve yourself as a person, improve the quality of your relationship with yourself, then you will have a better quality relationship with others and you'll be far more fulfilled in life. Make sense? That's the two organizing principles that we work on. A better relationship with money, a better relationship with yourself. And you'll have fulfillment and more financial abundance in your life. Who's following what I'm saying here? Okay. So the point was, I was leading up to a very important point. I used to play a lot of rugby league when I was younger. Some of you would know what that is. Obviously up here you would. So I got concussed a few times. So sometimes my brain, it stops working. It'll come back on. But also it's good because it tests you whether you're listening. What was I talking about before that? Important point is about to share, which could financial abundance, financial literacy at school, materialistic. Thank you very much. So people that say, I'm not into money, money's not most important. Okay, here's what I will acknowledge this. I'm sure you'll agree with this. I believe many things should be more important in life than money. That's my personal. I think your family, your health, your career even, because you should do something with your love, not for the money. All these things should be a higher priority in your life than money. Who'd raise your hand if you agree with that? Okay. However, here's the challenge in our Western society, is that if we don't master money, guess what becomes number one priority for most people in their life, whether they like it or not? Money. Is money. So the same people that say, I'm not really into money, I'm not materialistic, money's not everything. I say, okay, let's test this theory, shall we? Let's test it. Here's what I want you to do. Go down the shopping center, okay? Load up your shopping trolley and push the shopping trolley past the checkout operator and outside the door. You may not be into money, but guess what? The rest of the world is. So the same people saying they're not materialists, not into money, what do they spend most of their time doing during the day? Most of their life working for money. So they say one thing, but they do the opposite. It's incongruency. We need to be congruent about our relationship with money if we're going to have more of it. Jot this down. Money is important. Jot it down. Acknowledge it. Be honest with yourself. Some of you are hard to write that. Money is important. I was taught money was the root of all evil. I was taught money was evil, or money, when I was growing up as a kid, we used to see nice cars drive up the country road, and our brothers used to say, bet you they stole the next door neighbor's cattle or they were drug dealers. Where does this psyche come from? That somehow if you're rich, you're a bad person. Trust me, there's a lot of poor, bad people in the world as well. Money gets the blame for everything. Money is nothing but a piece of paper, or in Australia, a piece of plastic, with pictures of dead people on them. How the hell can pictures of dead people on a piece of paper cause evil things in the world? They don't. It's people. If you're a miserable person, See, money is a magnifier of who you are. If you're a miserable, stingy person and you become rich, you just become a miserable, stingy person on a bigger scale. But if you're a sweet, generous, loving soul, beautiful person, and you become wealthy, you just magnify who you are. You can be more generous, more sweeter on a larger scale. Does that make sense? It's not money, it's the individual. Okay? Making sense? So, these things are important when we understand this, because a lot of people go, yeah, I want to do better money, but then they feel guilty, or maybe I should be focused on my family. Well, no, have more abundance in your life so you can spend more time with your family. One of the reasons I was driven, I can remember an experience when I was very young, is that, no one likes to attend funerals, but I remember I was very young having to go to funerals of relatives that unfortunately had passed on. And what I noticed as a kid is that some people very close to them in their life couldn't come back to the funeral. You know why? They had a job. They were too busy. Didn't have the money, didn't have the job, or whatever reason, couldn't get away to come back, pay the respects at a funeral for someone they'd known most of their life. And as a kid, I thought, there's something incongruent about that. There's something not right about that. It's not a way that I one day want to live. So one of the driving forces for me to create abundance in my life is because family is highly important. So to this day, I religiously fly back to my farms where my family are every 8 weeks, every 10 weeks of my life. And no matter how busy I am, because you know what? I want to spend time with my parents while they're alive. You see, so many people go through their life, they're so busy making a living, but they forget to do what? Live. See, life is too short for that. We've got to live it now. We've got to redesign our life so you actually live life now and enjoy it. Have a vision for your future and have a future worth investing in. And that is great. You need that. But also smell the roses, enjoy the journey along the way. Where most people are too busy worrying about their future and not enjoying the moment, or most people are living in their past. Is it true? All the shit that's happened to them in the past. It's like driving down a freeway in a car, 100 kilometers an hour, and looking in the rear vision mirror to see where you're going. Is that healthy? You're going to crash. And that's why most people crash, because they're so hung up on their past. Let it go. I teach a lot of children with Australian schools and New Zealand schools bring their students into our youth summits we do, and I do it with my good friend Eric, and we put on these charity events. So if you have any teenagers out there, you're always welcome to come to youthsummit.com.au, and we have events all around the place, and it's a free event, and we educate students. But here's one thing I tell the students. I say, and jot this down, life isn't fair. True? Life isn't fair. So what do I tell the kids? Build a bridge and do what? Get over it. And most people need to build several bridges and get over them all. Does it make sense? Things are going to happen to us that's not fair. That is unjust. That shouldn't be the way. But that's just life. Are we going to let that stop us, or are we going to still get on with life? We can bitch and moan and whinge and blame, but it's not going to help us, is it? And that's the challenge. We can be so busy making a living, we forget to live. And it's redesigning. So my goal and wish for each and every one of you is you create the financial abundance in your life so you can have your family, you have your friends, you have your career, and all these, and you look after your, those things become number one priority, because you master money and money fits into where it should belong. It's important, but should fit into your life. Otherwise, it's out of whack. It's unhealthy. And it'll impact every aspect of your life. And then people one day will be on their deathbed looking back over their life and go, my God, I didn't achieve a fraction of the things I wanted to do. I've wasted so much opportunity. And the pain of regret versus the pain, or the supposed pain, of risking failure. A good friend of mine went and interviewed people in old age homes. Did this many years ago. Because he just wanted to see what they would do differently. And the common theme was, they all said, I wish I'd taken more what? Risks. They wish they'd taken more risks. What were they so scared of, they said to themselves? Because people just, are afraid of this thing called risk. It's understandable. But I often say, life is a risky business. There's not a person in this room here alive today that's going to get out of life alive. That's how risky it is. There's a risk to everything that we do. Some people go, I'm not going to invest because that sounds risky. Jamie, you become wealthy, you're probably doing high risk stuff. Jot this down. Bullshit. You become wealthy by actually, most people, the wealthier you become, the more conservative you become. Sure, taking some risk, but I was just weighing up one risk versus the other. And the risks I took to become a multi-millionaire were less risk than if I didn't do it. And I'll give you some examples of that today. If I didn't do it, the risk of not investing was much higher than the risk of investing. And then by being intelligent and calculated and strategic, and that's what this is about, intelligent thinking, you can minimize that risk and you can push up your returns. That's what sophisticated investors do. They increase the returns and decrease the risk. Making sense? The more skill that you have as an investor, the less capital you'll need as well. Let me jot that down. The more skill you have as an investor, the less capital you'll need to make money. The less skill you'll have, the more capital you'll need. Some people say, Jamie, to learn financial education, to go to wealth seminars and things like that, they're expensive. I say, well, what's your alternative? How expensive is the alternative? If you could walk out of today and get a concept, say just one strategy you're going to learn, share renting, and learn how over time, in a couple of months, you could pretty much be doing it and making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. That's all you got up to. Not to know that strategy, how much would that cost you next decade alone? Per month. You'll see some people. There's an interview, and I'll tell you where to get it, and you can watch where I interviewed John, who's making $40,000, $50,000 a month. For him to learn that knowledge cost him $3,000 4 years ago. Has he got a good return on his education? Education. Some people say, well, education is expensive. Well, how many people here sold their cars, worked hard, borrowed money to go to university? Some of you did that. How many people do go to university all the time? They'll invest tens of thousands of dollars. Our government sells university degrees to the Asian market. We generate $18 billion in export sales of tertiary education. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for some degrees. People pay that money because they believe in the value of education. But when it comes to a modern day 21st century education, a valuable education that might cost $4 or $5 grand, people are like, and they wonder why they're not successful. I sold my car, I borrowed money, I did whatever it took. What? Not to invest, to go out and invest in my education. And my friends back, this was 15 years ago, when I quit university, and I'm doing that, going, you're crazy. Why would you invest, or not invest, why would you spend all that money on seminars? And there wasn't any in Australia back then. So I had to go over to the US, etc. It's expensive. The guy is expensive. I'm thinking to myself, well, one, I don't consider it spending. I consider investing into my future. Two, I thought, I just spent tens of thousands of dollars going to university, and I didn't get a lot of value from that. So why wouldn't I invest in my own knowledge and education? See, I was willing to do that, and it's the biggest reason why I produced millions of dollars return. Because the more skill set you have, the more education you have, the less capital you need as an investor. Does that make sense? I'll explain what I mean as we go through some of the strategies. The less skill set you have, the more capital you're going to need, and the less return you'll get. So what is your greatest investment? In yourself, in your education. My point is, if you're not going to invest in yourself, then who is? Because if you don't invest in yourself, if you're not willing to back yourself, then why should other people back you? And that's what you look at in life. So to get an education, now these days, thanks to the internet, and a lot of education's made available, I'm going to talk to you today, some of you, I'm going to talk to you about scholarships we have at 21st Century. Some of you will be able to get free ongoing education, but I know in 21st Century, we give out DVDs, we give out books, we give out magazines, we give out a large amount of our education for free. Not all of it, okay? Because it's not a charity, but there's a lot of education out there. But if you have to invest in your education, do it. Don't expect someone else to bankroll you because you're not willing to invest in your education. It's not going to happen. Does that make sense? We're going to talk about that in a moment. Why, when we say, what's the question? Why are most people not financially successful? They're not taught at school and university about that. You've got to understand, most of us went to a 19th century school, or 20th century school, really, that was created in the 19th century. The 19th century and the 20th century was what age? What was it called? Industrialization era. In the industrialization era of mass factories, before that era, most people were self-employed, worked on a farm, generally had their own farm, self-employed. The world changed where they needed employees. Factories started and mass production. So they needed an education system designed for the time. The education system was designed basically to create employees, but employees that would follow the rules. If you're on a factory production line, do you want a creative thinker who goes, oh, I might change this today and maybe, yeah, why do we even putting this screw on here anyhow? Surely it doesn't matter. Let's try something different today. Do you want creativity on the production line? Yes or no? You want people to conform and precise, follow a system, follow the rules. So our education system was born out of conformity. Jot that down. Conformity. Because this is what's led to so many people not being financially successful in today's world. So most people are taught, show up at school at a certain time, the bell goes at a certain time, you report to a certain place at a certain time, you leave school at a certain time. It's good training to be an employee. Follow the rules, don't question anything. And that's what the world needed at the time. And that's why the education system was designed that way. However, in the 21st century, has the world changed a little or a lot? And do we now live in the industrialization era, or do we live in what? We live in the information age. The world has changed dramatically. Our education systems are being dragged in the future. In most cases are struggling to keep up. Actually, if we're really honest, are hopeless at producing creative thinking, highly intelligent, capable, proactive individuals that will lead this country to a better future. Think about it, at 5 years of age, beautiful, creative, bright soul of a child enters a school system. 12 years later, what do you get out? You don't get the same creative soul out, do you? You generally have the beginning of someone that is going to struggle in our society because they lack the skill set, and many of the skill sets they had as a child that will have them successful has been taught out of them. I'll give you a key. Conformity or creativity? What will make you wealthy? Creativity. Jot it down. Creativity is the key to solving problems. Creativity is the ability to become wealthy. Why was Richard Branson become a multi-billionaire? Not because he conformed to the rules, because he was creative. He was able to come up with ideas and solve problems. And that's what an entrepreneur has to do every day. You might say, well, not everyone can be an entrepreneur. Do you have to be creative if you work for an entrepreneur? Yes or no? People that will succeed in business or in any endeavor are people that are able to solve problems. That requires creativity, not conformity. Does it make sense? We need an education system that inspires creativity. How many kids are told are creative when they're young? They have a talent or creativity, but they're told when they get older, get realistic. Get realistic. And as a result, people move from their passion, a career that they might be creative about or passionate about, and move into something that will give them a safe, secure paycheck. And we have a society, in most cases, people not doing what they're passionate about. Generally leads to unhappiness, okay? And people get to a midlife crisis. Not happy, not where they want to be. And they want to say, well, Jamie, I'd love to do my passion. I'd love to be able to be more creative. Well, you've got two choices. You turn your creativity, you turn your passion, what you're really into a way of making money. And that's possible for some people, okay? But not for everyone. Some passions are just going to be hobbies. If it's just going to be a hobby and you are not successful turning it into money, or you don't want to monetize it because you just love doing it, okay, then you need to create your wealth elsewhere, or through investing, etc., or in other careers that enables you to spend time doing your passion. I'll share a story with you. A gentleman grew up 45 minutes from where I grew up. I grew up in a small country town, in a town called Glen Ennis. Has anyone heard of Glen Ennis before? Glen Ennis is northern New South Wales, Australia. I have a group of farms there. My family's still there to this day. I go there regularly. Great place to grow up, but quite cold in winter. As a result of that, I decided one day I wanted to live somewhere warmer. Okay, and so growing up there, I learned a lot about. I was taught to work hard, go to school, get good grades, or do really well. I did quite well at 15 years of age. I started my first business. I was able to. I had lots of money when I was a kid in one aspect compared to the other kids, but that's because I worked and built a business. I learned a lot of entrepreneurial skills as a teenager. I went off to university because my career advisor told me that if you want to make lots of money, Jamie, you should be an accountant. Don't always listen to career advisors, okay? What the career advisor probably didn't realize, accountants count money, they don't make it, okay? So I went off into a career that I'm a fairly creative person. Do creative people usually want to be accountants, yes or no? So it was a career. After a year, I realized it's not for me. I'm spending tens of thousands of dollars, and I had to make a decision, and I quit uni. Now, I'm not recommending doing that, but I did because I realized it wasn't for me. I need to go and do something different. And that was a difficult decision because it was like, I'll be considered a failure. I'm dropping out of university. A couple of years later, I started my own business, in telecommunications. I thought by the year 2000, everyone would have a mobile phone. I was able to preempt the trend and preempt the future. And that you get a percentage of everyone's phone bill, you sell the phones, etc. So having no idea what I was doing, which is often a key to success, is just getting started. Because if I waited for the perfect opportunity or the perfect time or before I knew everything about business, I would have never started. So I got started. I was able to build up 384 agents working for me around the country. In that business in a short period of time. I remember having people getting off the dole that were agents selling phones for me, making a good living. So I sort of also sold through contribution, having business you can help people. But it wasn't really my passion. As a young person, I was purely motivated to make what? Money. So to make money. And telecommunications was not a passion. So that was one of the reasons why it wasn't successful long term. But anyhow, I ended up building up business, couldn't get paid, had issues. I was owed heaps of money and ended up having to sleep on my friend's couch. My friend was actually working for me, so he was out of a job. My company had collapsed. I was facing bankruptcy. I guaranteed the debt on the company. And that's when I realized that I needed to change some things. Things were not working the way I wanted. I didn't know how to manage money. No one ever taught me about making money, how to manage the money. So then I started to seek a mentor. And that was a turning point. When I realized if I want to master money, then maybe I need to find someone that's doing better than me, someone that's done it before, and I went to learn off them. So some people say, well, that's all right. So you're saying, Jamie, I need to find a mentor. How do you find a millionaire mentor? Well, I was fortunate where I was living is that they had, this was in New South Wales at the time, in Sydney, they had a special initiative program where I got a knock on the door one day and this person said, I'm your local millionaire. I heard you wanted to become wealthy. I'm here to help you. They don't have that program in Queensland? No wonder we'll speak to your government, okay? So, no, that didn't happen. So I had to go and search and look. But when the student's ready, who usually appears? Teacher. So my friend had started working for a group of financial services companies in Sydney, Australia. And he said, look, you've got to come meet this guy, the guy that owns the company. He's wealthy. He's made money through commercial real estate, through property development. He's got a whole group of companies, accounting, financial planning, commercial property, real estate, etc. And he says, he might be someone you could learn on. Now, of course, you just can't rock up to a CEO of a large company and say, will you mentor me? I had to build a relationship. So what I went to do is I went to try and get a job there. My friend said, look, I'll try and get you a job here. So I went to get a job. There was no jobs going. Most people, when they don't get a job, what do? They just quit. Now, the other thing here, I was more motivated to work there to earn money or to learn. Jot that down. You should work primarily to learn. Most people get out of uni and they're like, I just want to make money, and they just want to work primarily to earn. That's the first recipe for financial failure. You should work predominantly because you're passionate about something, because you want to learn. Learn to serve your apprenticeship. What I was signing up for, what I wanted to do, was learn how to serve my apprenticeship to become a millionaire. If I thought if I could work in his companies, I could work my way up, get to know him, and he could mentor me how to become successful as an investor, how to become successful as an entrepreneur, how to learn about the world of money, and I could serve my apprenticeship. Make sense? So there was no jobs going, so I didn't quit. I was able to then get creative. See, you have to be creative to be successful. Solve a problem. It's okay, what can I do? I need to take their risk away, because for them to employ me, who am I? Just a kid that's got almost bankrupt from the country that has no idea what he's doing. But what I did have is I was committed. I was dedicated. I wasn't just going to say the talk, I'm going to be a millionaire one day. Anyone can say that. I was willing to back it up with action. So I said to him here, I'll go and trial. I'll work for free on the condition after X period of time, you will, if I can perform and deliver more than those other people you're employing, and I knew I could outperform them, because most people just work paycheck to paycheck. Is that true? They're just getting a paycheck, can't wait till it's Friday, just there for the money. I could easily outperform them. Why? Because I was passionate. 2, I had higher standards. I was committed to doing what it takes. Okay? I was driven, willing to do what it's... So I was creative, and I was able to convince them that after X period of time, they'll give me a job if I can prove myself. And that's how I ended up getting a job there. But then I didn't take a salary. I'm not going to teach you about how to renegotiate now. You can learn about that at 21st Century, how to set yourself up from day one so you can have a quality of life, you can earn a much larger income, not be chained to a desk and sell your time. Selling your time will not necessarily make you rich. I'm going to jot that down. Selling your time will not necessarily make you rich. You need to sell a result. That's a whole another seminar I don't have time for right now, but after lunch we might go into some of that. Long story short, I was able to start working there. My income went through the roof in less than 18 months by doing things differently. I was able to eliminate my debt. I learned off my mentor how to eliminate debt rapidly. That's where I learned about property investing. And then eventually I learned about share investing. I learned about business. So I learned all those skill sets over time. And I was serving my apprenticeship because predominantly I was working to learn. And that's what you should do. Work to learn, work in something. You say, well, Jamie, you want to change my career? How many careers out there can you move? Now, some people say, well, Jamie, I'm stuck in a job here and my ideal dream career is over here. How do I get from A to B? Well, what I would say is at least move in the direction of your dreams. Does that make sense? Most people just talk about what they want to do. If you don't know exactly what to do, just at least start moving in that direction. How hard is it to go and seek or Google and research what industries or companies you might want to work for? How hard is it to get a job if you're willing to work for free in the beginning? We take on internships at 21st Century. I know there's people that got their dream job. Many people queue up, want to work for some of my companies. It's their dream, okay? How did some of them get their job? Is some of them volunteered to work for free to get the experience. And guess what? Eventually when an opportunity come up, they were there. Jot this down. Proximity is power. Proximity is power. Be in the environment. Be near the location of wherever you want to go. Like if you want to become a Hollywood actor, even though the odds are very small, so you want to be realistic about you want to be an actress or whatever it is, at least be realistic about what the potential opportunity is and that you may not make it. You're unattached to the outcome, but you're going to do whatever it takes. So you can talk about, I want to be a Hollywood actor. Wouldn't it be good to be like Brad Pitt if that was your dream? Or Nicole Kidman if you want to be an actress. But people can talk. But the reason most people don't live their dreams is because just talking about and doing nothing about it, it's never going to happen. Did Brad Pitt just talk about being a famous actor one day? Or did he actually back it up with action? He backed it up with massive action. Most people don't know Brad Pitt used to walk around every day in Hollywood in a chicken suit. Broke, no money, in a chicken suit outside one of the chicken restaurants. In the hot sun, day after day. Why? Because he had a dream. He wasn't just willing to do it. He moved across the country to where he needs to be. Proximity is power. If he wants to be a Hollywood actor, it's a good idea to be in Hollywood. Funding his way, doing courses to learn the skill set. Have a dream. Is he guaranteed success, yes or no? There is no guarantee. But is he putting himself in a position where he could possibly succeed? Yes. And does that mean he risks failure? Yes. But if people do nothing and just talk about it, they'll be on their deathbed one day going, yeah, I wish I'd done that, should have done that, could have done that. They should have, all over themselves. Okay? Where he moved in the direction of his dream. And as a result of that, that led to him getting a break. And that led to another break. And then some people might say he was lucky. Well, he put himself in a position where he can be lucky. Making sense? And you don't even have to be a great actor to succeed. Some people might say, I have even better skill set than Brad Pitt as an actor. But why is he successful? Because he moved in the direction of his dream opportunity. Okay? Making sense? So one of the reasons why most people are not wealthy is because they weren't taught it at school. And worse than that, they were taught to be conformist, not to tap into their creativity. And as a result of that, they've dumbed down, as kids have these amazing skills naturally, and they've been dumbed down. So go out in the world, and most people learn their skill set required for a job, not at school, even not at university for most careers. They learn it on the job. So a large part of their education goes to waste. I would like to see that change. It's just the way it is for now. But what do we do about that? Second reason, Rob, that people are not financially successful, in this country in particular, is, the second reason is, jot it down, the financial planning industry. So what I will do is, let me give you an example. So when I'm teaching teenagers, what I will say is this. To teenagers I say, if you want to be wealthy, who should you study? A, a wealthy person, be a poor person. And what will they tell me? But I'm talking to fully matured adults. In this country, what do most people do? Are they listening to wealthy people? Yes or no? They're listening to generally financial commentators that are not wealthy. They're listening to financial planners that are not wealthy. They've been propagandized to by one of the most lucrative, richest industries on the planet that in Australia charges outrageous amounts of money they don't charge anywhere else, which is basically 90% owned by who? The banks. Okay? And the banks are good at making what? Money off the average uneducated, ignorant Australian. I say ignorant, financially ignorant. Not necessarily through any fault of their own, because they went to school and they weren't taught about it. So how am I meant to learn? So the government goes, okay, if you want to learn about money, because Peter Costello, when he was Federal Treasurer of Australia, he even told every Australian, he said, in the future, every Australian will have to become a self-funded retiree. Self-funded. Because there's not going to be a pension around. There's going to be enough taxpayers around. All the baby boomers are going to retire one day. There's going to be enough workers to pay for all the pensions. It'll disappear. Self-funded retiree means you have to become a what? Self-sufficient. You have to become an investor. So who's going to teach every Australian, every New Zealander, everyone that's in Western, how to be a successful investor? The government will go and say what you should do. The government will tell you what you should do is you should go and see a financial planner, but only a licensed one. Okay? Like, because if you get a piece of paper that licensed, that must mean that you're only going to deal with a good one, right? Okay. Or even Centrelink, will you believe, does free. I go and see my friends at Centrelink, at some of the trade expos, they have free financial courses. Okay. Now, I'm not sure what they're teaching in these courses, okay, and who's teaching them, but the reality is the financial planning industry is not about empowerment, is not about educating you to do it yourself. Because if you know how to do it yourself, why do you need them? So my millionaire mentor said, Jamie, if you want to be rich, then it's up to you, but do what everyone else does. He said, if you want to be successful, find out what most people are doing and then do the exact what? At least you're heading in the right direction. So what he said, go and do what everyone else does. Go and see a financial planner. Sit down with them, and as they're doing their spiel or trying to sell you something, you should be thinking in the back of your mind, if they could show me how to become financially independent, financially successful, live my dreams one day, then why haven't they done it themselves? Is that a fair enough question? Okay, now, you don't have to go out there and antagonize that industry. Okay? They'll go, you've been to a Jamie McIntyre seminar. We don't like him either. Okay? Bastard. So, but you can just think about it. Is that true? Now, there is a few good financial planners out there. If you ever meet one, please let me know. Okay? Most of them, though, are not successful individual investors that are empowered, have worked on their money relationship, have worked on the relationship themselves, have broken through fear, have transformed their life. They generally used to sell insurance and work for the bank on $45,000 to $55,000 a year salary and commission. Struggle streets. And do they generally invest in the products they're spruiking? No. Generally not. So what I'm saying is that that's a recipe for failure. Teenagers would know that. Why would we study poor people and expect to get rich? Why would we go to salespeople dressed up as financial planners? I mean, it's the greatest con job on the planet. The financial planning industry, they love me, okay? But they basically, these words they use, financial advisor, financial planners. It's a marketing ploy. They're salespeople that have a license certificate that anyone can pretty much get and know absolutely nothing about investing. You don't have to be a successful investor to be licensed to give advice on money. I think you should have to be. There should be different criteria if you're results driven. The world doesn't work like that. The bureaucratic world works. If you've got a piece of paper, you can do it. Imagine they did that for the doctor industry, the medical industry. Anyone can pretty much be a doctor, okay? So the point is, if they wanted to help you, most of them couldn't because they can't teach what they don't know. And two, they have no agenda to teach you because their agenda is to make money off you, so they want to do the investing for you. So here's what they'll tell you. And this has changed a little bit because the truth come out of the bag. When the credit crisis happened, their so-called plan fell to pieces because it was not a sustainable plan. They will say the financial planning is this. They will say, you should invest, you don't need to invest, but don't do it yourself. Doing it yourself is too risky. Most people go, yeah, it probably is. I don't know what I'm doing, so can you please take care of it for me? Sounds like a good thing. They will say pretty much, generally don't invest. They'll say this, share market, averaged about 13% return. Real estate in Australia has averaged only about 6% return. Therefore, we recommend predominantly, financial planners recommend predominantly to invest where? Property or shares? I'll recommend here, based on statistics. Okay? They'll also show you graphs. The share market does go up and down, but it always goes higher. Which is true. Okay? But they never compare apples with apples. Okay? And if you're not financially intelligent, know what's going on, you can fall for this marketing. Basically, it's a marketing ploy by the financial planning, how they teach people, because their ultimate goal is to get you to invest in their managed funds predominantly. Is that true? Managed funds predominantly tied up in the stock market. And that's why they give you statistics like that. But they don't compare apples with apples. They say, yeah, the stock market has averaged 13% return and the property market 6%. Okay? But they're basing the return not on the complete return. Now, when you go into the stock market, are you generally leveraged, yes or no? The average person? No. So you put 100K in there, okay, you get 13% return over time. They call it the buy and what strategy? Buy and hold and pray. They don't say the pray part, but pretty much it's you. Buy into managed funds, hold forever. Pretty much you need to pray that one day you'll come back at retirement and you'll have all this money. Repeat after me. Something to think about. How did that go for everyone through the credit crisis? Wipe people out. Buy, hold, and you need to pray a lot. Of course it's buy and hold because they make trailing commissions wherever you hold it. They don't want you selling down. They want you building up for the rest of their life. It's a very great marketing ploy, okay? And that's why they do it. They make truckloads of money off the average person who doesn't know how to do it themselves. Hell of a lot cheaper to learn how to do it yourself. Property, they also don't tell the truth about property. If you're going to buy property, do you put 100% cash in or do you put 10% deposit? 10, 20% deposit. So let's say you put 10% deposit in. Okay? And let's just use easy figures. You have a $100,000 property. Okay? You put in 10K. Let's say it only goes at 6%. You've seen property in this country go much higher than that, 6%. So 6%, and that increases that 100K property by 6K for the year. Okay? 6K, but you only actually outlaid 10K, didn't you? Not 100K. On the 10K, 6K return, if that's all you got, is that 6% or how much is it? It's actually 60. So the reality is they don't compare apples with apples. And one of the reasons why most Australians have not become wealthy is because they've been steered by the financial planning industry into managed funds, etc., when they could have just went out without a lot of help, a bit of education, and bought themselves some real estate. And as a result, over time, become accidental millionaires. As the majority of people in this country, how they become millionaires, it's done that, bought one or two investment properties. Plus the house over time has gone up in value. Who knows some people have done that? Many of you in the room have done that, is that true? And could have done it themselves without a lot of help. Actually, could have been a complete moron in this country 10 years ago and bought property and still made money. Is that true? 20 years ago, just put a dart up on just put a map of, say, every capital city in Australia, get a dart, and this is your investment strategy. Throw the dart, whatever suburb it lands on, go and buy a property. As long as you buy it at market value, come back in 10 years, have you made money? Yes or no? Yes. Is that highly sophisticated? It just requires, what does it require? Action. Most people won't do that because, it's got to get around to it. Or the fear. The fear comes from, I'm already paying off a mortgage. The last thing I want is 2 mortgages. Okay? Because 2 mortgages equal pain. So what you've got to understand is this. Millionaires think differently to pensioners. Okay? Here's a quick lesson. Before I do that, turn to the person next to you. I want you to teach them the 2 predominant reasons why most people fail financially in Western societies. And then the other person can teach back. I'll walk around the room and see who hasn't been listening. Go for it quickly, 3 minutes. Okay, class. Stretch these money-making muscles up nice and high. To the side, big moan. And the other side, big moan. And leaning back. And forwards. Is this making sense so far? We see in society why most people are not successful. It's not because they can't be. One, they weren't taught at school how to be. And two, most people follow a system of failure, spruiked by the financial planning industry, that is not based on results, is based on making money for the financial planner selling commission-based products in a flawed strategy. Okay, buy, hold, and pray. So that's part of the problem. What is great is my dear friends at the ASIC have finally cottoned on to this after years of criticism of the industry, and now they are planning in Australia to ban financial planner commissions. Okay, so that's moving in somewhere towards the direction of that. Instead of that industry responding proactively, they have lobbied for years to eliminate people like myself. They do not like financial educators. They detest the industry because we are competition to them. Okay? Because if we educate you to go out and do this yourself, you do no longer need them. We are a major threat to them. Instead of them responding and going, wow, we have competition, maybe we should raise our standards, we should add more value to our clients, they do ways to try and eliminate us from the industry. Okay? But good luck to them, because I'm not going anywhere. Okay? I believe in what I do. I'll stand in public anytime and challenge anyone, any place, on anything that we do and the results that we can produce for people. Why? Because we're teaching you how to do it yourself. Okay? Does that mean everyone that invests is guaranteed to make money? Yes or no? You can just say, oh, Jamie, I just have to go to seminars and that means I'll be successful? No, there is no guarantee. However, the odds are heavily stacked in your favor that by getting educated, you increase your chances of doing better and you decrease your chances of being taken advantage of financially. Does that make sense? So you have that more opportunity. And if you have the initiative and you're willing to be patient and put the effort in, your chances become very high. The good reason is because most people don't do this. What's great, I used to get annoyed where a lot of Australians are overly skeptical, and having healthy skepticism in life I think is okay, but most Australians are outright cynical. There are as many people that live in this country, despite it being one of the richest countries on the planet, where we see every day average people becoming property millionaires, and even people have done very well out of the stock market or through business. Is there a better country to create wealth in? I say to some of these people, if you can't make it in Australia, then guess what? You won't make it. You know, there's people jumping on boats to go to Bangladesh because it has greater opportunity than Australia. The boat people come here because they recognize the opportunity. So there is people that are outright cynical in this country, that you cannot become rich. The average person cannot become rich. And how dare anyone teach them? Make sense? That they can't become rich despite living in a rich country. Let's wake up and smell the roses. You live in a rich country, not rich, you're doing something wrong. Do you know they divided all the wealth in Australia up equally? Every one of you would be a millionaire already. Everyone would be worth about $3 million and growing. It's not a lack of wealth. We are a massive country, massive resources, small population. If you can't make it here, you're not going to make it. If you're educated, committed, focused, you will see miracles happen in your life financially that you'll eventually go, my God, I can't believe this, but why isn't everyone doing this? That's what you'll say. But before you learn it, you're going, you simply don't know. Most people are not aware, or most people are too outright cynical. Now, cynicism, what it is a mark of fear. It basically, people are fearful, are risking failure, so it's better to be cynical and believe there's nothing works and nothing's possible, so that way they can justify themselves that they can stay exactly where they are. Because to actually go and risk failure equals potential pain, and then if nothing works, then they justify to stay where they are. Or if you go and speak to a financial planner, they'll say, oh, don't touch that strategy or this strategy because it's highly risky. Or it's this or that won't work. Most people are not going to say the truth. They're not going to go, as a financial planner, you know what? I don't actually know what share renting is. I don't actually understand the strategy. They're not going to say that, are they? People are going to say anything to make out they are the higher authority. Do you understand how it works? Okay? I've had people 10 years ago, this is scary for what the people don't act with the minister. They've been to an intro seminar like this one. I used to do them all the time. I'll talk about share renting, which I'm going to cover shortly. And they will leave the seminar and they'll go and speak to a financial advisor and go, I was at this seminar that Mr. McIntyre was doing, and he's talking about share renting. Can I rent shares? And they go, rent what? No. And I knew it was a scam. And have never followed through and invested, despite the fact it's a legitimate strategy that's been around before. I didn't invent the strategy. I just created the terminology that opened it up for tens and tens of thousands of people in this country. That now it's a generic term. A lot of stockbrokers would know when you say share renting, they'll understand what you mean. Or selling insurance, they'll know what you mean. But we had to decode it and make it available to the mass. These were strategies that used to be just used by high net worth, rich individuals. And what we've done is taken those strategies and made them more widely available. Make sense? Through education, through the internet, through the power, able to reach a lot more people. Like Rupert Murdoch, if he wants an extra $100 million cash in a hurry, he at times will rent out shares. Now, it helps if you own 22 million News Corp shares, you can generate some significant cash flow. These are strategies that are commonly used around, and there's many add-ons that you can do to it that are possible. Okay? Doesn't guarantee everyone's success, but there's certain strategies that are much more profitable long-term, and we'll talk about some of those. Before we look at that, let's understand why is it that, well, did you know this? Jot this down. If you migrate to Australia, you are 4 times more likely to become a self-made millionaire than if you're born here. Raise your hand if that's good news for you. Who migrated to Australia? Probably about 40% of the room. Who was born here? You can blame it on your parents, okay? It's your parents' fault. I knew it wasn't my fault, okay? Why do people... Now, that statistic is amazing. If you migrate to Australia, you're 4 times more likely to become a self-made millionaire. Let's try and figure out why that is. Tell me, yell out some answers. Why do you think... Oh, let me tell you. I'll give you a clue. Is it because people that migrate here, the immigrants, they're given a special consideration? They're treated extra nice by everyone that's already here. Okay? Even if they don't speak English, oh, that doesn't matter. We'll be nice to you. We'll help you. Are they given special government interest-free loans to get their first house or start a business? That must be, they get all these advantages. That would be why. It's not true, is it? Tell me then, yell out some answers. Why are migrants 4 times more likely to become self-made millionaires in a country like Australia than those people that were born here? Okay, one at a time. People around the world are trying to take notes, okay? They're already out of their comfort zone to leave maybe their comfort zone and go to a whole new country. Yep, so they have to have a certain psychology to do that. True? What else? Tell me. Their passion. Yeah, no doubt they're passionate people. What else? Opportunity. Do they recognize opportunities? Is that what you say? Because everyone else that's born here has the same opportunity. Is that true? So they maybe recognize the opportunity. Yep.
They left a horrible country to make a better life.
In some cases, they've left a country where they maybe come from violence or poverty or a much more difficult challenge. Therefore, do they appreciate maybe what they have more? Yep. What else? Okay, you said that. This gentleman, not me, said Australians are culturally lazy. Who would agree with that? Okay, I didn't say you should agree. I'm just asking. What else? Tell me more. They take massive action. Yep, definitely. They're willing to start anywhere, so they'll start in any job to get started. Yeah. What's that? Proximity. They'll start and they'll work. They'll have a dream, no doubt, and move in that direction. What else? They want something more, so they're willing to go for it. They have a vision, they're willing to go for more. All these answers are correct and are important distinctions, because what we're going to say, people say, well, to become wealthy, what do I have to do? It's just changing perception. People that migrate here tend to have a different mindset and a different perception. See, you've seen me share this before, jot this down, but 80% of what it's going to take for the average person to become financially successful or successful in any endeavor in their life is 80% is mindset. It's having the right psychology, the right way of thinking to produce the result. And only 20% is actually what we call the strategy or the mechanics. So it is important to have financial strategies, and some strategies give you a better opportunity and work better than others. You need the strategy, you need both. But strategy is only about 20%. If all I did at 21st century was teach you financial strategies, I would be doing you a disservice. Because the strategies are important, But you need to have the psychology so you actually go out and implement the strategy so then it becomes valuable to your life. And there's certain things that hold people back. Fear, procrastination, they hesitate, doubt themselves, too busy making a living to get around actually getting rich. Okay? So this is important. This is what we call show me the money stuff. So the second half of my presentation is going to be about, let's look at the mechanics. But we've got to get clear about the mindset. Because my mentor was saying, Jamie, you really need to work on your mindset and your psychology. You might want to go to some seminars, read some books. I'm like, yeah, I've done all the motivation stuff. Just show me the money. I could pay some rent to my friend next week. I was desperate. Okay? He's like, you need to change your psychology. You need to learn some more. You need to go and invest into that. Now, as people become now, those of you who are going to go, if you go to 21stcenturyacademy.com, I think they've put it up there, it'll be up there shortly, the interview of John. Who's seen the interview with John Thompson? The 78-year-old gentleman from Perth, started with 21st Century 4 years ago. He went out, he made, it cost $3,000 for him to be a member and do the course back then, and he made $3,500 in his first week. Started with renting share strategy, which I'm going to run through with you. His second month, he made $7,500. Do you think he was excited, yes or no? Yeah. Now, the difference with him is that all he did was take some action. There's hundreds and hundreds of people you can hear about that are doing this sort of stuff. And then he decided to use one of the other strategies I'm going to touch on today, is selling insurance. He got into that strategy. And as a result, he started off with $10,000. Some people say, he's making $40,000, $50,000 a month. That's all right for him because he has $500,000 to trade with in his portfolio. What if I only have $10,000? Well, as John will tell you, he started with $10,000. He started doing that strategy. He got so excited, was making good money, he went and sold one of his properties and put $200,000 more into it. So $10,000 plus $200,000 he put into it, he built that up to $500,000. Okay? And now he makes 8 to 10% a month using that strategy, $40,000 to $50,000 a month. He just told me last month he made something like $59,000. Okay? Who likes the idea of that, by the way? Not suggesting that everyone can do that. But if you speak to John, he'll go, why not? No, you're going to do that straight away? No, John's done that over a series of years. Some people say, oh, he must have been lucky. Well, he's done it through a credit crisis as well. Now, does it mean he always wins, yes or no? No. Large percentage of time, yes, because you learn the strategy he's doing, yes, large percentage of time. He does, okay? But he's also 78 years of age. He'd never traded shares before. All he did was own some Telstra shares. Didn't have a clue, never traded, didn't even know how to turn a computer on. But he got the knowledge, and he said, the difference, Jamie, is that there's a difference when people learn something and they actually do it. He said, if all people could do is just do it on a small scale, just get their first trade, and then it goes from theory to this is actually real. This actually happens on a day-to-day basis. These things that we're talking about, that money is in the market, okay? And it becomes possible. And even on small amounts of capital, people can do quite well. Okay, but the less capital, the more skill set you need. Now, what stops a lot of people being financially successful or even getting started is fear. It can come from a lack of knowledge, okay, or just not a sense of not having the certainty, okay. That can hold a lot of people back. But what stops a lot of people is they just want to get rich quick. And I'm not here today to advocate getting rich quick. You can do quite well financially, but if you have the whole cowboy, I want to get rich and gamble, which a lot of Australians do, then you're wasting your time. You're setting yourself up for failure. Does it make sense? You need to be patient. You need to be willing to do what it takes and not just, I'm going to hope this works. I'm going to try this for a couple of months. If it doesn't work, then, okay? You just got to set out. And, anyone that's made it to the top, like John, is getting better and better and making better returns because he's been in the market. He's learning and he's learning. He's getting better. He's taken the strategy, fine-tunes it, but he's not greedy. He's sticking to fundamentals. I can tell you where people stuff up. They get greedy and they neglect lessons, okay? And they become cowboys. The danger is when you start making some good money, and I've seen this happen a lot, and people start getting complacent, okay? You always just want to be humble, focused, stick at it, and then choose a strategy. Some strategies are harder than others. I'm going to give you an idea of that as we go through some. Making sense? But some people achieve extraordinary amount of success, and he'll do that because he has a certain recipe, okay? Just doing simple strategies that we've taught. So the strategy is important, but he'll tell you ask John, and you'll see that interview, just 21stcenturyacademy.com. You can watch the interview, but he'll talk about it. He said, it's mainly mindset. That's what he goes to work on. If he didn't, he tries to help some of his friends and teach the strategy, but he says if they haven't done the home study with 21st Century or the 4-day, he says, I'm just wasting my time. because they don't have the thinking. They're just not thinking right. They just don't get it. Okay? So that's where it's critical. So people that migrate are 4 times more likely to become self-made millionaires. One of the reasons for that is, apart from all the reasons you shared, is they have a sense of gratitude. So John Templeton was one of the most successful investors of the previous century before Warren Buffett, who's now renowned as the world's greatest investor. So John Templeton bought penny stocks coming out of the Great Depression when most people were scared. He was buying and become a very successful investor. He was interviewed one day to say, what is the secret to becoming a billionaire? What's the secret of becoming wealthy? So everyone's ready for the stock tip, right? Which stock should I buy? And he simply said, you know what? You want to become wealthy? Here's what you should do. Every morning, you should wake up and focus on 5 things you could be grateful for. He said, it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account, but if you lose perspective about what you have in your life, you lose your wealth. He said, you can have no money in your bank account, but be grateful for the wonderful things you have, and you're rich. And it was a critical lesson for me, and I think it's a critical lesson for others, is to have gratitude. If you lose gratitude, you lose perspective on your life. And many people that were born in this country have lost perspective. They've lost their way. It's just like, the stories of rich kids that inherit a lot of money. They usually blow it. Australia, Generation Y and X have inherited all this money in a rich country that's an abundant, but they didn't have to work for it. Because it was our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents' generations that worked hard and did not have the opportunities we have today. I know growing up on a farm with my grandparents and my father and my parents, the work they put in. They started with nothing. And they worked generation to generation. For us kids, Generation X, to have a much better life. Generation Y, to have an even a better life. But see, you know what? Humans, jot this down. Humans need contrast. Humans need contrast. Without contrast, we don't know where we're at. What I mean by that is this. Is it possible you could actually grow up in a rich country and not even realize you're rich? Yes or no? And Australians, that's the case. They're so cynical that you can even become rich, they don't even realize how rich they already are. You need contrast. Those Australians that have travelled overseas, have been to third world countries, whether it's India or it's in Africa or some parts of South America or Asia. And when you see the contrast of real poverty, knowing that most people, majority of the planet lives on less than $2 US a day, and they come from this rich country and they have contrast, now they realize they actually are rich. Because you live in a rich country and have no contrast, you could consider it to be normal. When this amount of wealth that exists in this country is not normal. It's one of the wealthiest countries on the planet. And it's having that understanding, that appreciation. We look at our life differently. To create and have more wealth in your life, you must first recognize the wealth that you already do have. The secret. You've learned the secret? But it talks about the law of attraction, law of manifestation. It's true. You must first recognize the wealth you have, and you'll expand more of what you recognize. Most people focus on what they do not have, or focus on the lack of money. Focus on the bills, and they'll attract and manifest more of that. Okay? It's perception. My wealth, I started becoming wealthy as soon as I started changing my perception, waking up every morning. I still do this to this day. So what am I grateful for? Because it keeps you humble. It makes you realize and appreciate the things that are most important to you. And then the money and the financial success is a bonus. And you just do. Who's following what I'm saying here? Okay, so that's why people that migrate here do that much better. They have a much better perception, a different mindset than most people. And as a result, they'll do well from that. So let's look at a few things you need to understand about millionaire thinking. First of all, millionaires are able to make, let's look at the opposite of that. Let's say pensioners. Pensioners will struggle financially. What they tend to do is they take forever to make a decision about anything, about investing or anything. They have a hard time making a decision. And if they ever do make a decision, guess what they quickly do? They generally change their mind. Because they're ruled by the committee called they. The committee called they is all their friends or peer group around them. They're worried what they might say. My first millionaire mentor said, Jamie, here's what you want to consider. What other people think of you, jot this down, is none of your business. What other people think of you is none of your business, because most people hold themselves back because they're worried what their friends or their family or their peer group might think, or that person that's negative or critical to them, and holds them back. I better not try that. What if I fail? I'll be embarrassed. What other people think of you is none of your business. And he also said, the reality is most people don't think anyhow, so you have to worry about it. That's why they're not wealthy. So in other words, people, they struggle to make a decision and they change their mind often. Millionaires make a decision rapidly. You have to get good at making decisions quickly. That's what millionaires are able to do in business, are able to do in investing. You have to be able to decipher information, decipher the best you can and make a decision. And rarely change their mind. Millionaires are often very stubborn people. Okay, I was very fortunate. I grew up quite a stubborn person, so that helped. But in other words, very stubborn. They rarely change their mind. Does it mean they know what's going to be the right decision? No, they don't know that. They make a decision, act, and then they monitor, jot this down, test and measure. You test and measure what's working, what's not. And if something's not working, do you quit? You simply change your approach. You change your approach to get it working. Now, why you accelerate your results is you're running off a model. In other words, you're following someone else that's already done it. A particular strategy or particular business or particular career, someone's already done it. So you're going off a model and you just fine-tune and change your results until you get the outcome. That's a recipe for success. And that's what millionaires do differently. They also don't believe in the word can't be done. Okay? What most people do is live below the line. They blame others. So when you got pensioner mentality goes into investing and they don't make money, guess what they do? They blame everyone else, but do they ever look in the mirror and go, maybe I lost money because of guess who? See, millionaire mindset is willing to accept responsibility for everything, even if they weren't responsible for it. See, to take charge of your life, you have to accept responsibility for everything that happens in it. Yeah, but Jamie, you don't understand. It wasn't my fault. I don't care. The truth is in this. Jot it down. The truth is in the what? The truth is in the results. People will argue. How many opinions is there in Australia about anything? There's 24 million Australians. There's at least 24 million opinions. Most people have many of them, okay? The truth is in the results. I don't care what you think is right or wrong or whatever. The ultimate result is what result are you producing in your life? Is your strategy working for you or is it not? If you're getting the results, great, don't change anything. If you're not getting the results, maybe be humble enough and go, you know what, maybe I need to consider and entertain some new ideas. Making sense? So, most people will blame. Then they'll have a whole line-up of what? Excuses. My mentor said you can either make money or you can make excuses. You can't make both at the same time, so make up your mind, Jamie. I chose to make money instead of making excuses. Okay? The other thing they do is they tend to be in denial. And we talked about that before around money. They don't think money is important when actually it is important in our Western world, whether we like it or not. I don't create the rules, it's just the way it is. So to be successful, we have to be accountable. So you're going to become an investor, you have to be accountable, and you have to accept at times you may lose money. Fair chance you will lose money at times. Can you handle that? Or will you spit the dummy and go and sit in the corner and cry like, I like what Arnold Schwarzenegger said, girly men. In this country, there's too many girly men. They don't have the guts or the balls to do what it takes to be successful. They lose some money and they quit and cry. They go and write bullshit on the internet about people. Oh, they blame everyone else. Instead of having the guts to have a go and make it happen. Because that's what it takes. If you want to become a millionaire, it will take guts. It will take courage. It just doesn't walk out the street and hit you. But everyone has that courage. They can do that. Do you know what I'm saying? But if you want to be girly men, no reference to the women in the room, because women tend to be better traders. But men, if you behave like a girl in the market, what's going to happen? You lose and you deserve to lose. You have to pull it up and have a go. It's not like let's tip it for a couple of months and if it doesn't work, we quit and we run to the corner and cry. That's baby stuff. That's not what millionaires are made of. You have to be resilient. You have to be realistic. You have to get out there and have a go. And most of you will surprise yourself of what's possible. Because it's not necessarily hard. Okay? Denial, excuses, blame. And of course, we talked about it before, consistent massive action is the only way to get the results you want. Okay? So, a few things you want to know. What determines how we make decisions in our life? Jot this down. We make decisions to generally avoid pain. So Psychology 101. All to gain pleasure. How does this affect you as an investor? Well, let's test why most people are not wealthy. Look at this. There's 3 things you have to do to become financially successful. 1, you have to save up some money. 2, you have to work a job in the beginning, generally to make money. And 3, you have to then invest that money. Tell me, what does the average person link to saving money? Pain or pleasure? Pain. And as a result of that, they know they should do it. They know they should quit smoking. They know they should save, but they don't do it. Okay. Why ever they link pain to something, they'll do more to avoid that than to gain pleasure. Work, what do most people link to their job? Guess when most heart attacks occur in Australia? Between 8:30 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. on a Monday morning. People wake up, they've got a job they don't like, and they what we call in NLP terms, we future pace. They go, oh my God, I've got to wake up to a job for another 10, 20, 30, 40 years of my life. I'm already got enough pain now. And they feel that pain in their body in that instant. Their body goes, to avoid pain, it's less pain to die and have a heart attack than it is to put up with this for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And we laugh about that, but is it true? Yes. We'll do anything to avoid pain. So most people, whatever they know, oh, Jamie, I want to become wealthy, but I'm already working hard enough. You must have had to work really hard to get where you went. You know where their psychology is going? I think enough pain to working hard now. I get home, I'm tired, exhausted, I just don't want to work any harder. They're linking that. You know what I'm saying? As a result, they're trying to drive themselves to do it, but it's painful. It's painful. Are they motivated, yes or no? No. How long are they going to stick at it? Not long. They say, well, the old school is you've got to use willpower and discipline. That's the key. There's another way. It's a much easier way. Pain. Investing. What's most people link? Pain. Buy a second house. Let's imagine it. Buy a property. They're already paying off a mortgage on one. Okay. They're paying off a mortgage on one. This property, and if it's in Australia, is going to be negative geared. So let's say it's going to cost them $300 a month. After they get all their tax and their rent checks in, that's their shortfall. Say if it's $300 a month, let's say it's a $300,000 property. What do they link about having to come out and find $300 a month extra? They link pain to that. Or what do they link about having a second mortgage? Are they motivated to do it, yes or no? Even though they know they have to become a self-funded retiree one day, which means they have to invest one day, even though they know they have to do it and they should do it, equals pain. Because we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. You understand this? It's a little bit like, you know how they train an elephant? Yes. They'll tie the chain to an elephant's leg and peg it into the ground so the elephant can't walk anywhere. They have to chain it up because it's a big, strong creature. And the elephant will try and move, but it's pegged down, and the chain will keep rubbing against its leg, and eventually rub it raw, and it'll be so much pain to even move the leg. Eventually, after the elephant's tried that many times, it now starts to do what's called learned helplessness. It now starts to think, well, there's no point even trying because I've tried that many times before, I'm not going anywhere. So the elephant eventually, after that, will surrender and succumb. Learned helpless, it'll just give up. Then they can take the chain off and just tie a piece of string, small rope, to the peg around its leg. Even though this elephant is big, strong, capable of so much in life, it won't break that string. Learned helplessness. It's trained itself. Nothing works. It's not going to work. There's no point trying. Sad, huh? That's what happens with people. Whenever they link pain to something, what we need to do is reframe that. I don't have time to go through reframing right now, but we do it in our more intensive programs. You want to learn about that, but I'll give you a quick example. So they're linking pain to this. The pleasure is this. Here's how let me give you an example of reframing. So I teach the kids at the youth summits. Let me give you an example, different story about property investing. If you want to become wealthy, here's a different way to look at it. Imagine if you could get these magical bank accounts. There's two types of bank accounts. There's bank accounts you put money in, the bank pays you interest and you get some interest back. Okay? There's a special bank account. It's a little bit more difficult bank account to get, but if you get these special bank accounts, they can make you rich beyond your dreams. And pretty much everyone can get them if they know how to apply for them, etc., and do certain things. These special bank accounts, they don't pay you interest back, they will charge you interest, but they'll give you money. But what you have to do with these special bank accounts, you have to come up with, the deal is this, you have to come up with $300 every month, wherever you come from, and put it into this bank account. $300 every month religiously. If you forget a month, back to zero. You just have to find it, wherever you do. But if you're willing to come up with $300 a month, once you've got one of these special bank accounts, every month, at the end of the year, we will credit that bank account $30,000. Repeat after me. Something to think about. How long does it take a teenager to say, well, how the hell do I get one of those special bank accounts? $300 a month is $3,600 over the course of the year, and you credit me $30,000 end of each year. How many do you want? Who wants lots of them? What am I talking about? I'm talking about a magical bank account. It's called a property mortgage, an investment property, $300 a month. The end of the year, let's say this property doubles over a 10-year period to $600,000. Has that happened in Australia many times, yes or no? Over a decade, often less. Let's say it takes 15 years, who cares? Let's say 10 years in this example. On average, it's going up $30,000 a year in capital growth. A magic bank account, you put $300 a month in, and they credit you $30,000 end of each year. Who likes the idea of that? That's what we call reframing. See, now you link pleasure to it. You go, my God, I want many of those. Making sense? Where before, if you link pain to it, you can't motivate yourself. That's what we call, by reframing the way that we look at things, it will naturally motivate us. And as a result of that, I was able to reframe the way that I looked at things and naturally driven to be successful. I don't have to motivate myself to do things. I'm naturally motivated. Because I link things, and if I'm not motivated to do something, I can change my way that I look at things to motivate myself. Okay? Because to lead others, to motivate others, who must you first motivate? Yourself. The whole power resides in you. By you being able to get yourself to act, which is personal power, you will then inspire others around you to act. And that's where leadership comes from. That's where change comes from. It comes from you. The ability to just get yourself to act in life, where most people don't. Making sense? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay, and we come back in. After the break, I'm going to go through the financial strategy, show me the money time. We're going to look at 8 ways to get started. Then we're going to go into share renting. We've covered about 8 different share strategies. We're going to go into share renting, give you an example of that. Then we're going to go into some real estate strategies. And also going to teach you about quickly how to make $30,000 out of thin air. And I'm also going to go into some real estate strategies as well. I'm going to touch on the US market as well. Okay, so I'm going to give you a 5-minute break, and we'll see you back in here then.